Hello folks, here in the UK, red deer are our largest native deer species. In this film I will be talking about some of my experiences photographing, filming and sound recording them prior to 2024. I will be releasing a part 2 soon, in which I will be talking about filming them during the 2024 autumn rut using the Red Komodo X. On some occasions it's been ridiculously easy to get close to them, and then on others ridiculously hard to get anywhere near them. As a prey species, they are very aware and alert. I will be talking about some of the techniques we can employ to get close to them. I was once hiking over the open moors here in Scotland, singing along to music I had playing in my headphones, when I spotted a group of deer about a mile away that started to run as fast as they could to get further away from me, obviously seeing me as a threat. Totally understandable, of course. If you heard me sing, you'd probably do the same thing. But it struck me at the time just how sensitive these animals can be, and on that occasion having a mile between us just wasn't enough for them. The following stills were taken of two stags that had been habituated to people by the owner of a burger van parked at the side of a road. He had started throwing food out that the deer had then found. Over time, these deer lost most of the fear of people and began to wait for handouts at the side of the van. One day I spotted the deer and began to take photographs. It was fantastic to be so close to them with such an incredible background that I was able to use my 24 to 105mm lens to include as much of the background as possible. Being close to wild animals that don't appear to fear me always gives me a thrill. It can be relatively straightforward to habituate red deer and create a bait site that you're able to attract them to. Potatoes, carrots and apples work well. You can also buy deer pellets. Something that also works well is a salt lick. This is simply a compacted block of salt that the deer need as part of their diet. This is often why you see deer at the side of the road during winter after the gritters have gone through. Losing their inhibitions didn't work out well for these two incredible animals. It was reported that idiots were trying to hug one for selfies, and so it was shot to keep the idiots safe. The other was shot on welfare grounds, as somebody had shot and injured it in the face using a pellet gun. These two stories may suggest that if you do set up a bait site to attract the deer too, that you are careful on who you share this information with. A friend of mine wanted to create an image similar to this. He always drove to the location that he chose in the same vehicle and started to lay chopped potatoes out in the exact spot where he wanted the deer to stand. Over time, the deer had become habituated to the sound of the car, and then after a while later habituated to his presence. And then he managed to get the shots that he was after, but also was able, after a period of time, to take paying guests that could also get the similar shots. So for some deer it can be a win-win situation. They get a valuable nutrient supplement and we get images that we can cherish. Red deer can be very dangerous and care should always be taken when near them. With the stags, it's their antlers. With the hinds, it's their sharp front hooves, as they can rear up to hit you. They should never be underestimated, and trying to hug one is definitely not recommended. There are several deer parks here in the UK that offer fantastic opportunities to get close to them. There's Tatton Park near Manchester, Bradgate Park near Leicester and Richmond Park in London. Sound recording in these places can be a challenge due to the higher levels of noise pollution, but not impossible. For most of the year, red deer live quiet and sedentary lives. The stags form small groups and remain separate to the hinds that also do the same. Hinds tend not to move more than a mile in any direction from the place that they were born, and the calf will stay with the mother throughout the year, except for its first few weeks, where it will lay hidden in the undergrowth and the mother will be somewhere nearby. This all changes during a time known as the rut. This starts usually in early September and can go through to early November, and this is when the deer gather together to mate. During this time, the stags will start vocalising very loudly to attract in the females and also to advertise its prowess to other stags. One place that I can recommend for sound recording is the Isle of Rum here in Scotland. This is a relatively small island that has about 900 deer on it and very few people. Part of the island has been studied by several universities over the last 60 years, and so the deer in that area have become incredibly tolerant of people. On one occasion, I laid a microphone down on the road near to a stag. It then walked up to the microphone, stood over it and began to bellow its heart out, and this is part of the recording that I made. One technique to record sound is to use a drop rig. Put simply, it's a sound recorder and its power supply placed into a waterproof bag. The microphones are connected to it, and then it's simply left in the location where you believe the deer are going to be for a length of time. You simply find your location, set up the equipment, press record and walk away. Stags vocalise through the day and night, and so setting up your equipment overnight can be very useful as noise pollution is often less, and then you simply return and collect it the following day. Red deer are mostly active from dusk through to dawn, and so setting up your equipment during the night is often when you get the best recordings. I will be making a film on the sound recording equipment that I use and the techniques that I employ. So here are a few useful random things to be aware of. A stag's antlers fall off in March. They then grow a new pair, and as they grow, they are covered in a coating known as velvet. During August, this coating dries up and becomes very itchy to them, and so they rub their antlers against vegetation and trees to get the velvet off, something I would love to be able to film. Red deer can swim, and so water is not a barrier to their movements, and they will often cross a river at the same point. Those that live near the coast will often go onto the beach to eat seaweed, as they can gather in nutrients that they struggle to find elsewhere. During the rut, stags often receive fatal injuries, and if you come across a carcass, then this is a fantastic opportunity to set a hide down and record what comes in to feed on it. Now, deer can rotate their ears and can therefore focus in on the direction that a sound is coming from. A red deer are quite attuned to the natural sounds within their environment, and so if you do wish to get close to them, make sure that you make as little noise as possible, including stepping on branches, as a snapping branch is a relatively unfamiliar sound to a deer. Their eyesight is very attuned to seeing movement, so sometimes if they can see you but you remain perfectly still, they won't recognise your shape as a threat. Their eyes can rotate in their sockets, so this means that when it lowers its head to feed, its pupil, which is elongated, remains horizontal, and so they can see you equally as well when feeding with their head down as they can with the head raised. So don't imagine that when it's feeding it won't be able to see you move. Its field of vision is around 310 degrees, and so the only place that it can't see you is directly behind its head. As hinds and stags tend to remain for most of the year in small groups, if you see one, then you can be relatively sure that there are more around, and if they see you, they will give out an alarm bark to the others in the group. A deer's sense of smell is highly developed, and the only real defence we have against this is the direction of the prevailing wind. So always remain downwind of a deer, meaning that the wind is coming from the deer towards you. Well, thank you for watching, all the best to you, and bye for now.